Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody, and happy Halloween.
Weird. I didn't know it was Halloween today.
It's if there ever was a reason to watch the stream live or watch it on YouTube compared to listening on your favorite podcast app, this is it, probably.
So funny. I love it. I actually had to guess what you were. It wasn't immediately clear to me, but as soon as you told me, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I was a little concerned that not enough people are going to understand who I am. If you've played Mario, maybe you'll know who I am, but I'm Shy Guy from Mario. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Which
funny.
I think is like, I don't know, maybe I try to be like charismatic on the show, but I feel like Shy Guy, anytime I play like Mario Party or anything like that, I'm always Shy Guy. That's just it's my guy.
I usually always go with Yoshi.
Okay.
Yeah, that's usually my character. I used to go Princess Peach, but I think Yoshi... for some reason, I feel like Yoshi just goes the fastest, so I always choose Yoshi.
Yeah, Princess Peach is like a safe, basic pick. I think Yoshi's
She can be annoying sometimes, but yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. It is Halloween today. It is also a Bitcoin White Paper anniversary day, so happy birthday to the Bitcoin White Paper. Turned 17 years old today.
17
Almost
is crazy.
an adult.
I know, for some reason, I always still have it in my head that, like, Bitcoin's 13 years old, and, like, that's just the number that's, like, always stuck in my head. So when I saw, I think, the Stacks post that it was 17, I was like, oh, my goodness, that is a long time.
Yeah, 17's getting up there. Yeah, it's a long time. Well, let's get into the news.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got to start with the public company news. Of course, we have it's earnings season, so we have
It is.
A little bit more news to get into than we typically do. First up is Strategy. Of course, they bought some more Bitcoin. They bought 390 Bitcoin this week. They now hold 640,808 BTC. They said they had their Q3 earnings call this week. They announced plans to issue preferred stock in international markets, specifically mentioning Canada and Europe. So it's great for you, Kate. It's part of an effort to expand awareness and distribution of their Bitcoin-backed credit products.
Yeah. They said they're on a mission to give everybody a bank account that yields 10%. We want to change people's views on credit. So, pretty cool.
10% is a lot. I don't know if that's
I know.
like...
That's ambitious. Very ambitious.
Yeah, that is pretty ambitious. Also in strategy news, I'll just jump to this one.
Yeah, sure.
And then we can get back to the others. The S&P issued a B- to strategy. They kind of positioned it as a win, but it was the first ever rating of a Bitcoin treasury company by a major credit rating agency through the S&P. B- rating typically is not great. Signals heightened credit risk and a higher than average likelihood of default compared to more investment grade ratings. Like, for example, bonds or debt with a B- rating are often called junk bonds due to their speculative nature. But they still position this as a win, basically saying that it marks a step forward towards legitimacy for Bitcoin-backed financing, as the company can still access markets, but at a premium due to the rating's speculative status.
Right on. Then we have the American Bitcoin Corporation. This is the Trump's family company. They bought 1,422 Bitcoin, and they now hold a total of 3,865.
Do we know, is it, I would assume that it's one of like Trump's sons that's like the CEO of that?
Most likely. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I would imagine, since they've been involved in Bitcoin and crypto for quite some time, so they would probably be the most savvy.
Yeah, stacked more Bitcoin than Strategy this week. That's
Yeah.
impressive. Metaplanet also, they announced that they secured a $500 million credit facility, and also has authorized the repurchase of up to 150 million shares of its own stock. So if they're repurchasing shares of their own stock, that could mean that the kind of Bitcoin to stock ratio will go up or go down, whichever way you look at it. But um, yeah, that'll improve there.
Pretty cool. Do you want to touch on Coinbase earnings as well?
Yeah, so Coinbase had their earnings. I think that was just yesterday that they did that.
Yeah.
I can briefly share this image that they posted so we can take a look at it. Yeah, so this is their Q3 earnings. Just a couple highlights. For one, they also announced that they purchased an additional 2,772 Bitcoin in Q3, and Brian Armstrong did confirm that they will continue to buy more. They reported $1.86 billion in revenue, which beat expectations. And I think I also saw that just in terms of like the TVL or like the assets under custody or assets on platform, it's over $500 billion of assets on platform, which is, I think I saw a tweet this morning that was over double what Robinhood has on their platform, which is super, super impressive. That's a lot of crypto that they are in charge of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, this mask is starting to bother me. We'll see how long I can keep it on.
That's so funny. I mean, you mentioned here like their DEX integration, which onboarded like 40,000 more assets, is like, that's insane, like how much that propelled them forward.
Yeah, I was listening to I forget his name, but there was somebody from Coinbase that was on Palm's podcast recently, and he had this concept that Coinbase has called like the DeFi mullet, which is really funny. Basically, it's referring to the fact that like you have this really kind of like buttoned up, very, very polished, very, very easy onboarding experience through Coinbase. And then on the back end, in the back, you have like DeFi that's powering a lot of this stuff, that they're integrating DeFi a lot more into their platform. So you have kind of like CeFi in the front and like DeFi in the back, and Coinbase is that connection. And they called it the DeFi mullet, which is funny.
That's so good. That's really funny. I watched a video, and it was Brian like giving their earnings report, and then like in the last like 10 seconds, I think he checked like some of the prediction markets. Basically, people were betting on whether he would say certain words, and they were like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Web3, stuff like that. And he just like lists them, and he just goes, and to wrap it up, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Web3. Want to make sure we mention those in there. It was pretty funny.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I wonder how, like, with insider trading and stuff, I wonder like what are the rules and regulations there?
I don't know, but like,
can he bet on that stuff and then say those words? And is that like legal in today's weird world?
It's pretty funny. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't know how that would work. Like, I guess there is KYC on Polymarket, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. That is funny though. Well, yeah, big macro news this week was US and Canada both cut rates again by 0.25% or 25 bips if you're fancy. So rates are continuing to go down, but usually when we see rates go down, we see crypto prices go up, but I feel like crypto has also kind of been down this week. A little more uncertainty there, I guess.
Definitely. I'm super curious to hear about this next one. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get into this. We've had Charlie on the show before, and he's always been very helpful. He has a really great Twitter thread on it, so I wanted to share it, but I pulled out like a few specific things to talk about. So basically, at the beginning of this week, is created and just immediately caused controversy. BIP is a Bitcoin improvement proposal, so it's basically like a formal way of submitting a change to Bitcoin, like a consensus change to Bitcoin. So on Sunday, an anonymous account messaged the Bitcoin development mailing list with a pull request. The so-called reduced data temporary soft fork proposed a change that would allow the Bitcoin network to filter certain transactions at the consensus level instead of the relay or mempool level. It's a soft fork proposal that is in the mirror image of ideas floated by Ocean CEO Bitcoin core developer and leading Bitcoin NFT critic, Luke Jr., who, yeah, we had a whole conversation about this with Charlie a few weeks ago on it. I'll have to put a link to that show in the notes because it was very, very informative on catching us up to speed on all the drama so far.
Yeah.
Basically, this filter would block the 4 or 5 most common ways that people put arbitrary data on Bitcoin. But like we spoke about with Charlie a few weeks ago, he said that, this is just an endless cat and mouse game. And this is funny. Peter Todd has already put the entire text of the PR in a transaction on Bitcoin that would not have been filtered out by the PR. So there's plenty of ways to bypass this stuff. And there's no way to 100% block all this quote unquote arbitrary data from happening without having collateral damage and affecting real legitimate Bitcoin transactions. He went on to say, so the proposal gives 2 ways of activating. It's proactive and reactive. Proactive is the conventional Bitcoin way that everybody is kind of familiar with, where everybody kind of coordinates a soft fork date, and that happens in the future. But there's also this reactive where the fork can happen at any time based on ambiguous rules for determining if a transaction is offensive or illegal enough to fork. So if some transaction happens and they're like, oh my God, we got to do this now, they could potentially do it if they deem that a transaction is, quote, illegal enough or morally wrong enough. Then the miners would go back to that block, which is presumably hours or days later, because it would take time to coordinate that and rebuild from that block height. But with the way that Bitcoin works, it looks at the longest chain, right? So if they did that, that would most likely cause a reorg or more likely a chain split. So some people were calling Luke, his name is Luke Jr. They were calling him like Luke Cash Jr. or Bitcoin Cash Jr., which is super funny to me because that would basically cause a hard fork essentially, and it would cause like a different type of Bitcoin, like we've seen previously with Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, BSV. So going on to say, some mining pools have already come out not supporting the proposal. Developers are also reading through, commenting on it. We're finding out that the filter soft fork could freeze users' funds, so it also would like potentially impact legitimate transactions for people that are just trying to use Bitcoin for monetary reasons. But his conclusion basically is that it doesn't really seem like this has any legs or serious buy-in from the ecosystem. And since this happened towards the beginning of this week, a couple of days ago, the GitHub issue has been temporarily locked by the BIP editor to, quote, give people time to cool down. And the proposal author recently informed the mailing list that they are working on a new draft of the BIP based on feedback. So we'll see, but that is just an update to the ongoing Luke Jr. controversy.
Is there much known about the author of the BIP?
No, and that was where there was like a lot of speculation coming in. I think it was like Greg Maxwell even publicly tweeted this week about like the fact that there's just like it's just a little bit sketchy and a little bit like suspicious on this coming from a somewhat unknown person getting posted. So people were speculating that it was like somebody from Ocean Mining, maybe like in disguise posting it. And also a little suspicious on how quickly it was assigned a BIP. Because normally, like, this stuff doesn't happen that fast on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's been some speculation there, but nothing like, I don't know, proved yet on it. But just curious and a little weird with how quickly this has kind of come up with getting a BIP assigned, and it seems a little more urgent than it should be.
We need like a reality TV show to follow these.
There's got to be a movie about this in the future.
Drama. Yeah, I know. My goodness. But like someone like Charlie is so useful to have because he just like has a pulse on what's going on, and he's pretty impartial, and like he has like a lot of history to understand like where a lot of these things come from. And I don't know, I really enjoy reading his like write-ups on the drama.
100%. Yeah, go follow Charlie at CB Spears. Check out the Blockspace pod. He posted a whole recap there in their newsletter that they send out. So It's good stuff. Okay, moving on. We have a couple of stories from JP Morgan. First one that's very interesting is that they announced that, well, actually, I don't know if they announced it, but it's been sort of rumored and confirmed by a couple of sources that they plan on allowing Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral in crypto. So they said that JP Morgan Chase plans to allow institutional clients to use their holdings of Bitcoin and Ether as collateral for loans by the end of the year, in a significant deepening of Wall Street's crypto integration. And the program offered globally will rely on a third-party custodian to safeguard the pledged tokens, according to people familiar with the matter. I came to the conclusion, because we talked about this back in August, Coinbase and Chase announced this really significant partnership together. So I think it would only make sense for somebody like Coinbase to custody through their Coinbase Prime product. But not yet confirmed, I guess, by JP Morgan, but there's just a lot of speculation that they're going to be launching this very soon.
Yeah, and like it mentions, like they're primarily institutional clients, so this is obviously not for retail. So I imagine a lot of institutional clients would probably prefer like a third party to custody it at this point, but it's quite the shift from previous stances they've held on Bitcoin and blockchain and stuff like this.
Yeah, very much. I wanted to also play a clip. Jamie Dimon was in an interview speaking, and he got this question, and this clip here is pretty telling of how far we've come from his negative opinions about Bitcoin and crypto in the past. So I mean that's a pretty awesome clip, but him just admitting basically that all this stuff is real and it's legitimate and it's going to be used by everybody.
Yeah. I mean, he used to say, like, he used to threaten people if they were buying Bitcoin or like trading Bitcoin under JP Morgan that like they would be fired for doing so. So
anybody trading Bitcoin will be fired.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I guess if anything, it's just like the signal that, I mean, these guys go where money goes, right? They're going to go where they're going to make money, and they're clearly seeing a path here.
Yeah. Cool. Moving on, this is another BIP related news. This one's coming from Bitkey. They introduced this chain code delegation BIP for enhanced Bitcoin multisig privacy. And we'll try to keep this high level and not get too technical. It seems pretty cool. Basically what it'll do is, when you have like custody of your own keys, obviously you can see all of your wallet addresses that key, has like what's the word? Something paths. I'm blanking on the word. But anyway, you have one private key and you have many wallet addresses that can be derivation paths derived from that private key. And if you have multisig, it's very similar. If you are a holder or one of the people that, is part of like a multisig, say you're like part of a company maybe, and you have like multiple employees that all hold a key, right? And you have multiple people that need to sign a message or a transaction in order for the transaction to get submitted. But there's not any privacy there. So if you are the holder of one part of a multisig, you can see all of the addresses and you can see all the wallet activity and you can see everything. So there's like not really any privacy there. So basically what this will do is instead of sharing full chain codes, it withholds them, and co-signers will get only the minimal info that's needed to sign a transaction without learning balances or unrelated activity. So basically it just means that like multi-party wallets, like corporate treasuries and family vaults and stuff like that, can now have co-signers that can help recover funds or set spending limits and do things like that without actually seeing the transaction history on the entire wallet itself, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I could see some like pretty cool companies being like grown from this, because that is kind of a flag, being able to see all the balances, past transactions, and it kind of just opens up this privacy wormhole. And if you're dealing with people that you trust, it's not such a big deal. But I actually I didn't realize that multisig did work like this. So I actually learned about this through this Bitkey announcement.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And privacy is certainly something that's been kind of a hot topic over the past, feels like especially over the past few weeks, it's really bubbled up. I know I didn't get a chance to watch the video that you put in here about Zcash, but did you want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
totally. So it kind of just popped up randomly. It got produced from Zcash Media, and it's Zuko, who is the founder of Zcash, I'm pretty sure. But basically, it's kind of just like him telling the history of like leading up to Bitcoin, DigiCash, and how that didn't work, and sort of like this cypherpunk movement. So if you take anything from it, it's kind of just like a cool insight, like window to that whole group that was, writing on the forums and really like pioneering the way to get to Bitcoin. And some like cool things that I found from the video is basically him, just like talking about the different attempts and the people that were involved with DigiCash. And then when Bitcoin was launched, a lot of the guys in the cypherpunk movement were like, this is not going to work. They kind of just brushed it off because there were so many previous attempts that also didn't work. And they really started to see it work by, they were talking about like people started like transacting for like raw milk and raw butter and stuff like that because it was illegal and like in the US and everything. And I have to kind of go back for the details because he was talking about this as like this was like his aha moment when people were like actually using it and it was functioning. So it's kind of just like I said, like a window into like that whole group and how Bitcoin like blossomed from there. But then the main part of the video is really him talking about like Bitcoin's fatal flaw, which is the whole privacy aspect and something that like Satoshi even touched on himself. But at that time, zero knowledge proofs weren't discovered yet. So that was like a kind of like discovery that came in later years, and now how that like factored into Zcash being developed. Because right now on the Bitcoin network, all transactions are public, and there's a lot of tools that can like link addresses and really trace money, which makes it not very private. And for a lot of people, that's like a huge aspect of money is allowing it to be private. So that's sort of how like Zcash developed and sort of that narrative happening right now. So it's a really cool video. It's only like 25 minutes. It's definitely worth a listen. But what are your thoughts?
I definitely want to still take time to watch it. I think Zcash is sort of the closest proxy to like cash that we have on the digital side of things, right? I can give somebody cash and I gave them cash. Nobody knows that I gave them cash. The fact, however much cash they have under their mattress, like nobody can prove that, but there ultimately is like, this supply of dollars. With the Z in Zcash, like you said, it stands for zero knowledge. You can provably, through like math, you can prove that a transaction from one person to another happened without revealing any details of the transaction. Mm-hmm. So you don't know how much was given or who the recipients are or really anything like that. You can just prove that that a transaction happened, and that's where like, and then those proofs get stored on the Zcash blockchain, and that's how. It's a functioning blockchain. Super interesting. We're seeing just a lot of people talk about privacy. Like ZEC, like the Zcash token, has really been like going up a lot lately. See a lot of people posting about it. So very interesting.
I was talking to Manib last week just about dual stacking and his thoughts and stuff on it. And he got into privacy and Zcash a little bit. And he was saying like he knows Zuko from a long time ago. But he was talking about how like in the case of Stacks, for instance, like Stacks can't exist without Bitcoin. It's not coming for its place. Like it can very harmoniously live alongside Bitcoin. They can both flourish. And in fact, like Stacks can't flourish unless Bitcoin does. But with Zcash, it's really coming for Bitcoin. Theoretically, if Zcash gets adopted, it kind of makes Bitcoin obsolete. So it was maybe he needs to expand on that a little bit more. I know he has like remnants on Twitter of his thoughts on privacy and what could be done about it. But it's definitely a booming narrative.
Manib's been posting about it, and I don't know. I feel like Manib, he always shows his cards. Like, so whenever he's like posting about something like this, like that he's just working on something. You don't know what, but like that he's doing something behind the scenes. So maybe we'll see something from him in the future. I don't know anything, but that's me speculating, I guess. But I feel like whenever he posts something like that, that something's coming. Yeah.
Anyway, to check out that video, it's the handle is Zcash Media, and I think it's like their first post, but it's a cool watch. If anything, it's just it's a good watch. What else we have?
More banking news. So payments processor Zelle has announced that they will be using stablecoins for international transactions. Do they have Zelle in Canada, or is it just a US thing?
I've never heard of it, so.
It's just like basically Zelle, it's like this like bank to bank transfer system. So I can just put in like an email. It's kind of like a bank Venmo almost, where I can just put in like somebody's email address or somebody's phone number, and that's like connected to their bank account. So I could like just send somebody like some cash through like from one bank account to another. And it's
We
a
call
lot
it e-transfer here.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably a very similar thing. But yeah, it's just like way faster than like ACH or a wire or anything like that. It's like instant. And it's kind of interesting because even though it's run by the banks, like Zelle transactions are not reversible for some reason. So there's all these like, there's also a lot of scams that come from Zelle. Like I know somebody that like got some like, they got like some call that their like their gas or like their water or something was going to be shut off unless they like sent a payment really quick, right? And they like sent it through Zelle, and then they couldn't get it back. There was like nothing they could do, even though it's run by the banks. They could seemingly do it. It's a very centralized system.
Yeah.
Like they don't reverse transactions, which is weird. But basically, so Zelle is owned by a conglomerate of U.S. banks. It's owned by this company called Early Warning Services, which is like kind of a weird name. But basically, they said that using stablecoins would enable Zelle to deliver faster and more reliable cross-border money movement. They did not specify what stablecoins they would be using for this, but they're getting on the stablecoin train, which is very cool. Love to see the adoption there.
Very cool. I would say more than anything, sure, it's faster, more reliable, but it's also cheaper, I would imagine.
Yeah, it has to be, certainly. Yeah, so like cross-border payments, stuff like that can be very expensive.
Yeah.
Next one is from IBM. They announced this IBM Digital Asset Haven. Basically, it's like this comprehensive platform for financial institutions, governments, and corporations to securely manage and scale their digital asset operations. So sort of like a platform, seems like it's something where they're trying to compete with like a Coinbase Prime, where they are offering like transaction management and custody and key management and stuff like that for larger like institutions and governments and stuff like that. Basically, in their kind of product announcement, they said that banks and governments now have a single solution to manage their digital asset lifecycle from custody to transactions to settlement, that helps them meet compliance obligations while being integration ready. So IBM, getting into crypto a little bit more. All these traditional companies are just eventually going to integrate crypto into their services, it seems like.
That's definitely the trend.
This was one quick thing. I didn't really have like a lot to share on it, but I guess it was also reported that Polymarket, we already talked about Polymarket a little bit at the top of the show. They are set to launch in the US within weeks with a specific focus on sports betting. So I'll have to look forward to that, I guess, and see what comes from it.
That's going to be huge.
Yeah. Okay.
And then,
last but not least, we have a lot to talk about with dual stacking. Do you want to talk about it a little bit? I'm gonna queue up the sharing.
Yeah. So dual stacking, it's cool because this was like the first project that Stacks Labs team really worked on together. Getting it out into the world and really collaborating on it from like product and marketing. So dual stacking, to simplify it, it's basically a way to earn Bitcoin on your Bitcoin. So the sequence of events kind of goes like this. You bring your Bitcoin to Stacks, you peg it in through the decentralized trust minimized bridge, and that turns it into sBTC. So you enroll it into sBTC rewards, and then from there, it's really up to you to determine how much more rewards you can earn on that. And that comes from stacking your stacks. So that's sort of like the native action on the Stacks network is stacking stacks, you're earning Bitcoin, you're helping secure the chain. And so the more stacks you stack in relation to your sBTC, the more rewards that you can earn in sBTC. Amazingly, sBTC is always redeemable for Bitcoin, 1-to-1. And so it's just this like really unique mechanism that's unique to Stacks because of proof of transfer. We've talked about that lots on here, and how Bitcoin gets distributed to those who are stacking stacks. And so, there's different rates that you can, or different rewards that you can earn depending on, the scenario that you prefer. We're going to play a clip from Andre who kind of gets into some more details around it. But one thing that you highlighted and that I really like is just like how transparent this is. And it's, not claiming to be anything other than it isn't. That's a very confusing way to say that. But basically, like, it's a very transparent, open way, and you can decide your path and how much rewards, you want to earn and how much you're willing to deploy into the ecosystem. And I think the last thing I would say about it is once you're in, your sBTC is enrolled, you're boosting it by stacking your stacks. You can then take your sBTC and then use it in DeFi. So, you can deploy it in Granite or Zest or Hermetica and continue to earn additional yield on it. I was just talking to Jakob today with Hermetica about a new product that they are coming out with at Hermetica. And that's pretty cool. I'm excited to share some more about that next week. But that would be an insane yield boost on top of all of the other rewards that you're earning with dual stacking. So let me know your thoughts about dual stacking.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Like you said, I think it's leveraging proof of transfer in a way that no other chain can offer stacking in this way. You can bridge your Bitcoin in as sBTC to stacks, and just immediately once you opt into this program, you just start earning up to 0.5% APY. And it's in your wallet. It's not locked up. You can bring it back to the L1 literally whenever you want. It's just in your wallet and you're earning them automatically. But where the dual stacking part comes in is if you pair that up with STX, then you can earn up to 5% APY in sBTC. So just for holding STX or stacking STX in your wallet as well, you can do that. But you can also earn it by just deploying it in DeFi. So if you don't, if you're a more traditional Bitcoiner, you think that STX is an altcoin and you don't want to hold any altcoins, there's still options for you here with what you can do and what you can earn. I think it's really cool. It's sort of, we've posted about it in some of the marketing, but it's aligning incentives between Bitcoiners who just want to earn more Bitcoin and stacks holders, STX holders who, they want to see the value of the stacks network go up. And I think it's just a really awesome pairing of those two solutions. And yeah, like you said, you can take that sBTC and if you're stacking STX, you're already earning, Bitcoin through that as well. So it's just there's a lot of rewards and a lot of yield and a lot of things going on here, and you can deploy that stuff elsewhere, and you can earn even more, right? You can deploy it in Granite or Zest, and you can take out a loan at a very small LTV, and then take that money, and then deploy it more and earn more yield, right? There's a lot that you can do with this, so it's really, really cool. I'm going to queue up the interview that we did with Andre, but yeah, very excited to see just how this is received, by the greater Bitcoin community.
Yeah,
I think we'll continue to track how successful it is and stuff like that. But expect a lot more marketing initiatives with dual stacking over the coming months, and I think especially into the beginning of next year is when things I think will really, really, really start to ramp up. You'll start to see more paid stuff and everything like that. So very excited for that. All right, I'm going to queue up the Andre video here.
Andre's been crushing it with interviews. I've seen him on the Bitcoin Yield with Jacob Brown. He was chatting about dual stacking there. And I know he's hopped on a lot of spaces to chat about it. So he's awesome to talk to about this.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to share the clip. While the clip is playing, I'm going to take this mask off because it is bothering me. It's getting very hot in this mask, and I need a break. So
you're brave.
We will enjoy this clip, and I will be back in a minute.
Stacks is obviously known for locking your stacks, earning Bitcoin. And then earlier this year, we introduced sBTC rewards just by holding sBTC. Can you maybe talk about the biggest change that dual stacking introduces now?
Sure thing. As you mentioned, we launched sBTC in December of last year, and that product was really well received from the market because it was a very easy way for people to participate in sBTC and start really earning rewards. When we think about the evolution of sBTC and these sorts of yield products on stacks, the main difference is that with dual stacking, it aligns the incentives a little bit more nicely with the value and growth of the underlying stacks network. And people can still earn a base yield by depositing Bitcoin and minting sBTC. That yield, we project to be around the 50 basis points level roughly. And then by staking STX alongside your sBTC, it makes you eligible for a higher multiplier on your sBTC rewards. And the maximum multiplier is 10 times the base yield.
Seeing it in front of you is very useful. So part of this product is really launching a dashboard where you can play around with different multipliers. Would you like to talk about how the dashboard is going to look and what people can expect?
People will be able to connect their wallet and see all of the Bitcoin rewards opportunities directly in one place. So as a user just coming to the site, the first thing that you would do is mint some sBTC. That's kind of the first step to start participating. And then you would enroll your wallet in the dual stacking contract. This doesn't lock your sBTC or anything. It kind of just informs the smart contract that it should include your wallet in the overall rewards calculations. So in that sense, your SBTC stays liquid during that entire time. So you can use it for other opportunities across the Stacks ecosystem. And then, this dashboard will guide you through the various ways to basically start stacking and feature different DeFi opportunities. There are different tools like calculators where you can really kind of project what your yield is going to be given how you're participating in dual stacking, and then different sorts of portfolio and reward tracker tools as well.
Can you maybe expand a little bit on other Bitcoin layers or even projects on other networks that talk about staking your Bitcoin and compare this dual stacking to some of the other products that are in market?
I often get asked about Lombard and LBTC, as well as Starknet launched a new staking product recently. Each of them have their own kind of like flavors, what they've built for and optimizing for. At least for sBTC and dual stacking, there's a few things. I come back to the rewards being denominated in Bitcoin. This is something that really resonates with investors from the conversations that I've had, where in each of these other cases, the rewards are distributed in the native token of that ecosystem. And so it adds a little bit of friction. One of the things that is nice about sBTC compared to some of these others is that your sBTC remains liquid as part of it, so you can use it in DeFi, and the rewards are distributed directly to your wallet every 2 weeks, in line with a proof of transfer cycle length. And so that allows you to take that Bitcoin and be able to compound those returns by deploying it into DeFi and other opportunities as well. Underlying security properties of sBTC in terms of having a more transparent institutional signer network, I think that helps to add a lot of trust to the product as well. When you look at like other sorts of wrapped Bitcoin assets, some of the largest ones like a wrapped Bitcoin or Coinbase Bitcoin rely on a central custodian, which in some ways is antithetical to the Bitcoin ethos. And so we developed sBTC to have a decentralized validator network where basically you have a decentralized network of signers that are attesting to the deposit and withdrawal operations of the protocol. And it requires 70% of them to basically mint or redeem sBTC from the protocol. It reduces reliance on a single party. And we focus on having the best-in-class infrastructure providers of teams like Blockdaemon and Kiln and Chorus One and Restake and others that have developed reputations as being really industry-leading infrastructure providers for this use case.
We've heard a lot this year about, Bitcoin treasury companies, and, they are certainly trying to earn yield on their Bitcoin and trying to grow their Bitcoin per share. Can you share a little bit on some conversations you've had and just how Bitcoin treasury companies might be thinking about a product like this?
There's a lot of Bitcoin treasury companies that are very risk averse. The game that they're playing is more so based around like financial engineering and really trying to grow their Bitcoin per share by essentially issuing more debt and buying Bitcoin with that. I think that there is going to be a lot of education to get some of these traditional Bitcoin treasury companies to start participating on chain. That said, I do think that there is a really interesting opportunity for some of these companies to start to earn yield by a product like dual stacking, because all of these companies are going to need a way to service the interest on their debts. And it's something that we're seeing in other ecosystems like Solana and Ethereum, where their treasury companies are able to participate in staking. They're able to grow their holdings per share at a faster rate and service the interest on the debt. Once it starts to click, the rest of them will follow suit.
Bitcoiners in general that haven't really interacted with the Stacks network too much, I personally am really excited to see how they receive dual stacking. What's your pitch to the Bitcoiner that hasn't used Stacked before, but has a lot of Bitcoin and is potentially interested in earning a little bit of yield on it?
We really have designed the system with flexible options for how you can maximize your Bitcoin yield offering. If you wanted to just mint sBTC and earn rewards from consensus, because that is probably the least amount of friction to participating, we have a product there for you. If you wanted to participate in the DeFi ecosystem and start to compound your holdings, then there are really easy ways to do that. The app kind of guides you through how best to participate. I really tried to design the system in a way that would allow kind of like the average Bitcoin holder to have a few different options depending on their preferences.
It's great to be like transparent and let them sort of decide, the risk reward, and everybody's going to have a different answer on what they feel comfortable with. So as long as you can have that transparency, it's great to let them choose that.
If you want to compound your Bitcoin holdings, grow your Bitcoin holdings over time, I think this is a good solution for you. Go check it out. We've made it super simple to go through the process to participate in a few of the flexible ways that we talked about. This is the first version of the product. We want to know how we can make it a better experience for you and sort of satisfy the goals that you have to grow your Bitcoin.
Okay.
It's fun listening back to that. That was a great convo, and you look so different now.
I do. I still have.
Yeah.
I have my Halloween Town shirt on.
Oh,
so
that's a nice shirt.
We're still
I like
rocking
it.
Halloween.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really great talking to Andre. He knows his stuff, and just all this stuff like dual stacking, all this, talk about like Bitcoin treasury companies. It really gets me excited about the future of Stacks, and like Stacks is really kind of laying the groundwork for a lot of this stuff that I think is eventually going to be used by these larger institutions. And like conversations are happening, like a lot of this stuff is underway, like the product is here now, we need to go and pitch it, right, and get institutions and maybe even treasury companies in the future, right, on board with it. So it just makes me really excited for the future of Stacks and what's to come.
Yep, I couldn't agree more.
Thanks again to Andre for coming on the show and talking to us. That was a good convo. Yeah, go follow us on Twitter. Follow me at Marshall Mixing, Kate's at Kate M. Parkman on X. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. That's goodforbitcoin.com. And then find us on YouTube and subscribe to us on YouTube, where you'll see these live streams there as well. It's youtube.com/@the Good for Bitcoin. And we will see y'all next week.
Awesome. Happy Halloween and happy white paper day.
That's right. All right. Bye, guys.